Steeler Nation, we are back for another great week of shows on the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I am Jay York Football. Alongside of me, as always, Mic'd Up Sports One. And man, it's a scorcher in Pittsburgh today. I think you said it off air. I think it's hotter here than it is in South Florida. Power went out, but made the 2 p.m. Podcast. So all things are looking up. Changed to poopy diapers. So it's a win in my book, I guess you could say. How's everything going?
Said you had a crazy couple of hours. You didn't mention you're changing poopy diapers. I hope they weren't your own. Yeah, I know you're working hard over there with little Aria. She's the best. I'm good. I was saying off air, I was telling Jimmy, our producer, that you can't complain about both the heat and the cold. Okay, I want to throw that out there now. I hear people all year in Pittsburgh complain about the cold. I can't wait for summer, and now it's too hot. Give me a break. Get near a pool. Embrace it, because in a couple of months, you're going to wish it was still hot. Go grill some burgers and, set up, let the sprinkler hit you, the hose, right? Pour it on your head or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind the heat, to be honest. I'm much more of I'd rather be in the sun. You could always come into the AC. When you're cold, I feel like it's just kind of like the seasonal depression kicks in. Only thing that makes it better is Steeler football in December. So there's a nice segue. Have a really great guest today. Obviously, we kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit before we run our intro. The Aaron Rodgers interview came out. Saying, on the Pat McAfee show that this is his last year, signed a 1-year deal. So it's Super Bowl or bust. I guess that's what I grasped from that.
Yeah, I was surprised that he said that. For one, usually you hear the PC answer, I'll take it week by week, day by day. But he said he was at peace with this being his final year. So that was obviously a big takeaway. And the other big takeaway for me was just how much he knew about the roster already. We know how, smart he is. And obviously this is a guy who incredibly high football IQ, but he was breaking down Connor Hayward's route tree. He's only been on the team, a couple of weeks. So I thought that was really cool. Somehow he's endearing himself to me and fans a little bit more as each passing day and week go by.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before, and I'll still stand by it. I don't think this was, the best choice, just because now that it's a 1-year deal, I think if it doesn't work out, he can mentor possibly Will Howard and, Mason Rudolph still. I think he's on a 2-year deal that he'll still have a chance kind of to blossom. I mean, already has, but, kind of feel bad for the guy because I think he deserves it more than anyone. But the 2026 draft class is definitely a lot better. So maybe the franchise quarterback. But, hey, if we get a playoff win out of it, I'll take it. I just think it doesn't fix the eternal problems that are going on in Steeler land right now. But, we have a great guest today. I'm going to talk some fantasy, going to talk some Steelers and some betting odds as well. I'm excited about that because you always know the over under the Steelers hit it every year. I think what is it usually 9 wins. So they hit that quite frequently with Mike Tomlin's non-losing season streak. But yeah, really excited. It's going to be here before we know it. Preseason will be coming. We say it on every podcast. The Pirates season has been done since May, unfortunately. So I think people are ready for Ball Pompiani and Charlie Batch to pop up on the screen. I see that tweet you retweeted. It made me chuckle and does definitely make me happy too. The best right there. So Jimmy, let's get to it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
You mentioned it. We're excited. We have a great guest. Senior writer, and he's the owner of fantasypoints.com. He is, of course, just an NFL encyclopedia. We'll talk fantasy. We'll talk Steelers as well. Let's bring him in. It is Tom Brolley. Tom, what's going on?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm like you, though. I'm trying to stay cool here. I'm in central Pennsylvania. We went right from just dumping rain for 6 or 8 weeks here, and now it's just straight heat here. So nothing in between. No spring here, but before we know it, it's going to be August and Steelers football will be right around the corner here.
Shocking. Growing up in Pittsburgh for 30 years, as got to the last like 5 years before I moved, I realized there was no spring and fall anymore. Really, it's like 2 seasons. You have winter and summer. What happened to the leaves falling and the spring flowers blossoming?
Yeah, it gets shorter. It seemingly gets shorter every year. The fall and the spring seasons, but gotta enjoy them while you can. But we're right into the middle of summer and looking forward to a little beach time and everything. But yeah, we're always still thinking about football in these parts, at least.
Yeah, it's a good segue. And talk about enjoying it while you can. I guess the Steelers and Steeler fans will try and do that for 1 year with Aaron Rodgers. Of course, as he announced today that this is his last year. That could always change. I think Brett Favre said that 7 times. And that ended up changing. But listen, just general thoughts on Rodgers first and foremost. And I was going through some props recently. His over/under in touchdowns is 23.5. He threw 28 last year. So just curious, kind of your outlook on his upcoming season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting fit here in Pittsburgh. They bring in DK Metcalf. He's kind of a downfield type of receiver. Of course, they traded away George Pickens, and he was another downfield type of receiver. So Rodgers likes to get the ball out of his hands quick, low ADOT. I was looking through some of the numbers recently. We keep a lot of over at Fantasy Points data. We track our own every play, and he was throwing it 2.2 seconds a lot of the times, and 7-yard ADOT. But you look at what the quarterbacks were doing last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the ADOTs were 8.1 yards, and they were holding onto it for 2.5 seconds. So this is going to be a completely different type of quarterback than we saw last year, and I think in a lot of ways it's probably for the best. Make quicker decisions, get the ball out quick. You have guys like Pat Freiermuth and Jaylen Warren who can make plays if you don't want your quarterback holding on to it for long amounts of time. So I also do think Rodgers, everybody kind of turned against him last season. They get off to the miserable start, and they're kind of a forgotten team by the time December rolls around. And the numbers kind of say that he started to play better football towards the end of the season, and which isn't completely shocking. A guy coming off an Achilles injury and needed some time, needed some reps, and he's an older guy as well. So I'm relatively optimistic about this move, as optimistic as you can be. I think this is kind of looking at the roster. It's starting to get to be a little bit older roster, especially on defense. Mike Tomlin, the voices around Pittsburgh, the fans, they're starting to get a little disgruntled with it. So maybe bringing in this guy who can potentially raise the ceiling of this team, kind of go for bust here, try to get back into the playoffs, see what you got, or it might flame out and it might be epically bad. And maybe that's the hard reset that the Steelers kind of need right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all very fair. And if it does flame out, it probably would mostly on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers, I would imagine. I want to elaborate on Metcalf a little bit more. I know that you were doing some homework on him. I saw that on your X. His over-under looks like 970.5 yards, 7.5 touchdowns. Obviously, all of this is very fantasy relevant as these are tied in together. Mm-hmm. We're going to have him in the tier of fantasy receivers, and obviously that will kind of let people know what you think of his season outlook.
Yeah, I kind of view him as like a high-end wide receiver 2, mid-wide receiver 2. He's about doing some of these early best ball drafts. He's right around that 4th, 5th round turn. I've been doing most of my drafts on underdog here. So I like him a little bit more than that. I've been kind of targeting him in like the mid-4th round. I do, there are some issues with Pittsburgh's offense. We know Arthur Smith is going to want to run the ball. They're going to try to protect this older quarterback. So they're not going to be throwing it 35, 40 times per game. But if we look at the other receivers around him right now, it's, Calvin Austin is the number 2. Roman Wilson, completely unproven, but a guy I kind of liked coming out, but we didn't get to really see him last year as a 3rd-round pick out of Michigan. So, it's a lot of kind of unproven guys around him at receiver right now. So we saw the last couple years in Seattle, he was able to still put up some big numbers. They had Jackson Smith and Jigba around him, Tyler Lockett, guys that are commanding the ball a lot. So I think we could see Metcalf looking at those, numbers. He could be around a 28% target share potentially, maybe pushing 30%. That could be top 10 in the league. So, it's all going to come down to, can Aaron Rodgers get him the ball deep down the field? Can he get him, target him down around the end zone? But watching Rodgers, at least last year, he was really targeting, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams very heavily. So he at least recognized that, or who are the best receivers on the field. I'm not going to necessarily be spreading the ball around to a lot of these ancillary pieces. I'm going to get the ball to my best receiver. So I think that could potentially work very well for DK Metcalf. So I like him a little bit better than, where the market's currently kind of have him being drafted.
Let's stay on that same topic on the offense. What kind of year do you think Pat Freiermuth, with Aaron Rodgers can have this year as far as just in general, but also fantasy value?
Yeah, I kind of like him a lot more than where he's currently getting drafted as well. He's kind of in best ball drafts. He's like a mid to late tight end 2. I like him more as a mid tight end 2. That's about where he finished last year. He did get quite a bit lucky last year. He scored the 7 touchdowns. We tracked him for only 2 end zone targets. So way outproduced, what he should have been doing based on his end zone targets. But I do think Rodgers will probably be targeting him. And like a lot of other Steelers fans, I was watching the interview today. Pat Freiermuth was basically the first person that he kind of called out in that interview. He was talking about everybody else, Connor Hayward and, the Iowa running back. But Freiermuth was kind of the first guy that he talked about. And he said he's going to have a locker room, in the locker room. He's going to be his locker mate there. He was the guy on social media constantly badgering him to come out of retirement and join the Steelers here. So it seems like there's already a relationship there with Aaron Rodgers. And if we know anything about Aaron Rodgers over the last 10, 15 years, if you get on his good side, you can stay there and you can be targeted a lot. So we saw with guys like Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, he brings to New York. So maybe Pat Freiermuth is that first guy that's going to be, friendly here with Aaron Rodgers. And, I was talking a little bit about, how Rodgers likes to get the ball out of his hands quickly, lower ADOT type of quarterback. I mean, that all kind of works into Pat Freiermuth's strengths even last year. So I'm liking it a lot for Pat Freiermuth here. I think he's being underdrafted a little bit. I kind of like him as a mid tight end 2 there. Maybe he could push to be a fringe top 12 starter here if things break right for him.
I think people in Pittsburgh will be really happy. I mean, he definitely showed spurts, but just got to get the consistency going. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers can be that missing piece. You kind of mentioned it, the Steelers running back room. Talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Jaylen Warren, friend of the show. Obviously, Najee going to, the Chargers. I think that they kind of found, Jaylen Warren's a running back of the future. Just talk about that running back room.
Yeah, I like Jaylen Warren quite a bit compared to where he's being drafted. He's usually going about 3 rounds after Caleb Johnson in best ball drafts right now. But we saw a little bit last year. Breece Hall was heavily targeted in the Jets passing game. I do think we don't know for sure what Caleb Johnson's going to be able to do if he gets off to a slow start or Arthur Smith doesn't completely trust him. Maybe that means more work is put on Jaylen Warren's plate. So I do think, drafters are right that Caleb Johnson should be drafted ahead of Jaylen Warren, but I think it's much tighter than what the market's, they're basically 30 picks apart right now in early drafts.
Yeah.
And I think it should be, much closer to maybe like 10 picks apart at this point. Caleb Johnson, I wasn't very high on him coming out. I'm looking at it more from a fantasy perspective. But a lot of that has to do with him playing in that Iowa offense. They don't ask their backs to catch the ball a lot, and we know receptions mean a lot for fantasy. Maybe he can develop some of that, but I think they're kind of looking at him right now as, they want him to be the between the tackles, work at the goal line, short yardage type of situations. So I'm probably a little bit lower on Caleb Johnson than the markets right now, but maybe that's a little bit of my bias. I do like Jalen Warren a little bit more than what everybody else is doing right now.
Tom, I was shocked when I was looking at the. Caleb was at 800 yards, 800.5, and Jalen was at 575.5. And that disparity to me it's just way too large, I thought. Jalen 2 years ago had 150 carries, and he was at like 750 yards. And I don't know, I would anticipate with Najee gone that he gets around that amount of carries. And crushes 575. I don't know. Injury is always a factor, but
we have it pretty close. Fantasy points projections. We actually have Warren at about 545.
Oh, wow.
Caleb Johnson, we have him at 991. So I guess I'm a little, we do it's a collaborative effort over fantasy points. I'm a little bit higher on Jalen and a little bit lower on Caleb than the rest of the staff.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more before I throw it back to Mike, and then we wrap up here. You could tell the people where they can find your work at. Obviously, the Steelers need another weapon. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, some names that have come up. How much gas do they have left in the tank? And do you have any names that come to mind that could possibly be another option? I said this in past podcasts. Love Calvin Austin. I just think he's more of a gadget player, special teams. But in Robbie Woods, I think at this point in his career, I don't think the ceiling's too high there. So just talk about those two guys and possibly another free agent out there that you could see.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Keenan Allen, and it kind of makes sense. A little bit of that Cal connection with Aaron Rodgers. They're both two of the best players, with Marshawn Lloyd. Over the last 20 years here. So that one makes a lot of sense to me. You could still have Calvin Austin playing outside on the perimeter, can have Keenan Allen primarily working on the inside. And it feels like he's the type of player that Aaron Rodgers would really trust in those third down type of situations in the middle of the field, supreme route runner. So, and I think he does still have a little bit left. I'm kind of surprised that he's still out there. Hasn't been a whole lot of reporting on him. I'm just curious if maybe he's just waiting. Once you get to this point of the summer, maybe these guys are just kind of waiting to see what happens in the first couple of weeks of training camp to see where injuries happen, who gets hurt, what situations kind of open up. But I could see him potentially being an option, and I think he would be an upgrade over Calvin Austin and Robin Wilson. So, but the fact that they haven't really made a move, maybe that does point to the Steelers having.
I honestly forget about Roman Wilson because he hasn't seen the field. So I'm like, when you said that, I'm like, oh wow, we still have Roman Wilson. Yeah, I totally forgot that.
And I think that maybe they have some optimism about him. They get to see him behind the scenes. All of last season he didn't get on the field a whole lot, but maybe they've seen him in spring ball, and maybe they have higher expectations for him than the rest of the public does because nobody else got to see him really last year. So, maybe that's a positive for Roman Wilson that they haven't made a big move at wide receiver just yet.
For sure, Tom, we are quickly approaching fantasy draft season. It is here. So we want a lot of people to check out your work. Give us a rundown. Where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, over at fantasypoints.com. Check me out over there. I'm writing up a lot of betting content right now. That's my primary focus, but I also have do a lot of writing. I write a waiver wire during the season. I'll do a lot of our draft prep articles that will start coming out mid-July for people that are looking to do their fantasy drafts. And we're pretty excited. Fantasy Points is coming back to Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel, number 87 there. We'll be back July 7th. Joe Dolan will be, if anybody that's familiar, will be doing the Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows with Paul Kelly, and I'll be doing the Tuesday, Thursday shows, and we'll be running from 7 to 8 a.m. all throughout football season. So we're really excited that that's back. And I also do a podcast with the Fantasy Points podcast network, Best Bets, and we'll be doing multiple podcasts this upcoming season. We'll kind of look at games from against the spread and everything early in the week, and more of a focus on player props later in the week. So anybody that wants to check that out, fantasypoints.com.
We can't wait. We'll be excited to check out. Everybody remember, if you lose money, it is not Tom's fault. But if you win money, it's his credit. So, make sure everybody keeps that.
When we win bets, people are usually more quiet. But whenever you lose a couple, they'll let you know. So hopefully we'll just keep people a little, quiet throughout the year. We had a really good year.
Such is life.
Yes, exactly. Expectations are high. We're coming off a really strong year last year. We were up close to 59 units last year. So that's with futures, player props, and draft betting. So looking to have another strong season in 2025.
Let's go. Profitable. Can't wait.
Yep.
Tom, thanks so much, man. We really enjoyed it.
Thank
we'll do
you,
it again.
Tom.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Mike.
Talk soon.
Yeah, really good stuff. And, anytime we have somebody who's breaking down props as well as, betting and fantasy, obviously you're getting a full picture. This isn't just like hey, who's scoring points for my team? This is a serious outlook on a Steelers offense that he's diving deep into. So really, really good stuff. And I think a lot more takeaways than just X's and O's, but a lot more takeaways than just black and white stats. But I think some of the X's and O's factor in there as well. So I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, I mean, and I like what I like about having fantasy guys on like Tom is that you could apply, they do so much research, analytics, all that goes into it that you could just apply, not just in the fantasy world, but it just gives, our viewers a chance to kind of, digest it all. And guests like him, you just sit back and let them unravel. Just another great guest. Really excited for the season now. It's I would say the optimism meter is at I'd say like a 7.5, and it was about a 4 a couple months ago. So,
lower. Well, that's a big jump. Take it.
That's we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. The needle's moving, as you like to say.
There it goes. There it goes. And listen, we appreciate everybody for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Sick Podcast, Steelers Crazy, everywhere. Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your favorite podcast. Comment, like us on, of course, X, and follow us as well. Great show today. Thanks, JY. Thank you, Tom, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yep. Be back later this week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.